Hello, hello. And yes, I am here live again. So excited to be here. You know, Wednesday is my favorite day. Do you know why? Yes, it has something to do, it has everything to do with being live here again from my palatial estate in Collingwood, Ontario. Yes, for another Janome Canada Facebook Live, Janome America, Janome Sewing Machines Facebook Live, Janome Canada YouTube Live, and Janome America YouTube Live. So yes, hello everyone. I'm just checking notifications as always to make sure everything is okay. I think I should be live. Yes, I am. Wonderful. It is great to see you all here. Can you believe the last Wednesday of October? Where did the month go? It flew by as always, but you know, we have Halloween on Friday, always something to look forward to. Not only we can make some really cool projects, maybe a little trick or treat bag, you know, with our fabulous Janome machines, but it's always great to see the kids all dressed up. That's all fun too. So hello, everyone. It's great to see you. My name is Michael Smith, the National Education Manager of Janome Canada. And yes, I'm back here for another live to do more presser feet, specifically specialty presser feet demos. And automatically, I've got a question right away. Will this foot fit the 1600p? And the foot that we're talking about is the fabulous piping foot. I hope you all subscribe to our Janome Life blog, and you will see the little sneak peek there on what I'm demoing today. But specifically the piping foot, and I'll show you that in just a moment when I flip my camera. No, sadly, that will not fit the 1600p because the piping foot is a snap-on foot, whereas the 1600p, the foot and the foot holder are integrated. So there are some specialty presser feet for the HD9 and for the 1600p that are, you know, high-speed straight stitch machines, but the piping foot is not one of them. However, we could use the HD roller foot with piping for the 1600p and the HD9. So consult your Janome dealer about that HD roller foot. There is always an alternative. But yes, oh my gosh, good morning from Australia. Hello, hello. So yes, the piping foot. Let's get right to it because as usual, the time will flip by right away. So yes, let me spin around here. The piping foot, again, there is a foot for every purpose. And boom, doesn't really matter which Janome machine you have. For example, I'm on my fabulous Memorycraft 1000. Again, we'll see back. A combo machine that it is embroidery, stitched all this beautiful embroidery, and then here's some decorative stitches built in. I use the circular sewing attachment for that. But yes, the Memorycraft 1000 is a combo machine, so sewing and embroidery. Oh my gosh, Julian Collins is here. Hello, hello. It is great to see you. So yes, another one of our very proud male sewists who does phenomenal work. But yes, that it's a great machine. If you're a beginner, you're looking to sew and you need a machine and you're looking maybe to expand your repertoire, you don't want a machine right away that you're going to outgrow. So this combo machine, you can definitely grow into. You can incorporate embroidery when you're ready. Or again, maybe you are fighting for space and you need a combo machine. You can't have two separate machines, or this is a great machine, smaller, more lighter weight. You can take it off to classes. Maybe you're heading south for the winter. Oh, I wish I could go with you. It's definitely getting colder here. So then, again, this would be a great machine for travel as well. Now, it is a 7mm machine, and don't worry, the piping feet are available for 5, 7, and 9mm. So when I talk about millimeters, I'm talking about the width of this little bar here, the snap-on feet. And again, this is why this piping foot is not compatible. This is not the piping foot. I'll show that in just a moment. I'm building up the suspense. You see that little bar there? That is what I'm talking about. So 5 to 7mm, it will fit. And then this is my A foot for 9mm machines. And you see that bar is way bigger. So these are the same two presser feet, but you'll see this 9mm foot is bigger, but it's mainly that bar that it's going to snap onto is bigger. So that's why we need a foot that is going to fit. So here is the piping foot. It is the I foot, because all Janome feet are lettered. So this is I, and I did a series called A to Z with Janome, and this is the I episode. And you'll see these grooves on the underside of the foot. So the right groove here, because this foot is upside down, so the right groove is the dedicated channel to make the piping. We could use the left groove ultimately to make the piping, but the left groove here, again, this foot is upside down there. The left groove is what we want to install the piping in between our seam line, because do you see how the foot is like hollowed out here? So if we need to pivot a corner, round a corner off, we can do it because this foot is carved out on the bottom side. Janome thinks of everything. Isn't that brilliant? So this is the piping foot. And then relatively new is the narrow piping foot. This is the I2 foot. And you'll see more narrow channels. So specifically garment sewers, you would love this if you want to add some piping around a collar, a cuff, maybe around a pocket edge, something a little more delicate, maybe some doll clothes. So this I2 piping foot would be good for that because of the smaller grooves. So these are the 9mm feet, but both feet, the piping foot and the narrow piping foot, are available for 5mm, 7mm, and 9mm machines. Now they come in a blister pack. Now for my 9mm machines, again, it says 9mm. For all the other 5 and 7mm machine, it'll be the same blister pack. It just won't say 9mm. So again, we've got the regular piping foot and then the narrow piping foot. So many different options. Now I often suggest that you take these feet, and again, they're snap-on foot. So I have my 7mm foot already snapped onto my machine. And I suggest that you take these feet. First, you purchase from your fabulous Janome dealer, and then you take the feet to your craft store, and you see, again, this thick piping here, this cording. Maybe my regular piping foot will work. So I put it in one of these grooves, and then I just bring it through. Oh, yes, that will fit, no problem. Maybe for the narrow foot. Now, this is the same cotton cord that we could get, like jute cording. We could get whatever kind of cording filling that we would like. This I actually get from the hardware store. You could actually get this as well from the kitchen supply store. This we typically will, tie up the turkey with for Thanksgiving. So maybe you've got this left over in America. Your Thanksgiving is coming up next month. So maybe you've got some of this cotton twine for your turkey. But again, you see, will it fit in this groove? And in this case, this is the narrow foot that I have down here on the bed of my machine. This will work just beautifully. So you first purchase the feet from your Janome dealer, and then you audition. You go to the craft store or the hardware store is typically where I get all of this. Mostly it's cotton, especially if I'm going to use it in a garment. I'll get it in cotton, or some of it's polyester. For home decor, I'll generally use the nylon cording, and I don't worry about shrinkage then. If you're using cotton cording specifically in a garment, you'll want to pre-wash it, even soak it in hot water and let it dry, because then if you wash your garment afterward, it will shrink. So make sure to pre-wash your cotton cording first. So thank you, everyone. It is so wonderful to see you all. Oh, it is so good. Again, time goes by so fast, but thank you everyone for joining me. So this is how we make this beautiful cording, and then we insert it into our seam. So here is my piping as I've made it, and then we insert it into the seam, and how beautiful it looks. So of course, we're going to follow the instructions on the back of the blister pack here, and we simply can cut our strip. Now, typically for piping, we like a bias strip. This is cut on the bias, which means on the 45 degree. So you see that stretch. And particularly if we're using for a garment, we're going around a collar, or home decor, we're going around a pillow, around a corner, we will want this bias cut because it'll lay flatter. Now, your cording, again, could be pretty much anything. Yarn, for example. My sister is a fabulous knitter crocheter. So maybe a ball of yarn you have left over, and this you can use as the filler for your piping. So anything you can use, nothing goes to waste. So all I'm going to do, my strip, approximately, I cut mine about 1 to 1.25 inches wide. You can always cut your strip down to accommodate your seam allowance of your project. I find it's easier to work with at least 1 to 1.25 inches wide strip, and you fold it in half like that. There is my cording. May always make it longer. It's easier to feed in the machine. And then again, you can cut this down for your seam allowance as need be. So again, I'm going to use the right groove here to make my piping. And it's so simple because the groove in the foot is going to keep that piping perfectly in line. So I can sew down very close to the piping that's in the middle, the cording that's in the middle. Now my needle position here on my Memorycraft 1000 that is set to middle needle position, which is 3.5. But we can scooch that over just a little bit closer to the piping. Now, I don't want to make it really, really close at this stage. I'll make it closer when I insert it into the seam. But in this case, I could, this is my stitch needle position, needle drop position, my stitch width. For a straight stitch is all I'm using. So center needle position is 3.5 in my Memorycraft 1000, so I'm moving it to a 4.0, so it's just a little closer. And my stitch length is 2.4, that's perfectly fine. So this, super simple to do, and it's instantly, you can elevate your project to the designer category by adding this piping. You can add this special touch to your home decor items, to your tote bags. There's so many things you can add this piping to, and as usual, never let anything go to waste. You can add this onto a craft project, into a doll's bedding if you want, or a doll's skirt, whatever. It's so simple to do. So again, I will just stitch this down. So you see, super simple to do because this piping is in the channel. So that's why I'm just keeping my seam allowances here lined up. I'm not stretching this bias. And there's my convenient scissor button here. And ultimately, on our Memorycraft 1000, we do have a speed control slider. So if this is a machine, you're getting someone, perhaps a young one, to sew, then you can always turn down the speed of the machine if that makes you more comfortable. And everyone loves the push button controls, like automatic scissor button here to cut our threads. So there, boom, there is my row of piping there, my row of stitching. So beautiful, very close to the cording here in the middle. There it is. Now I will insert this into a seam. Look how beautiful and professional that looks, like no problem. So now I'm going to use the left side of the foot, because as you remember, the left side of the foot, you see how it's hollowed out here at the back. So if I'm going to make a curve or I'm going to miter a corner, I need that little hollow bit to accommodate for the bulk of this piping. So again, Janome thinks of everything. So here I'm just going to line everything up. Again, I could trim my seam allowances down if I need to, depending on my project. I'm just going to lay everything right sides together, sandwich this in between. I'm going to put my piping now in that left groove. There we go, locked into position. Now this is where, again, I moved my needle position to the right to make it a little closer when I was inserting this cording in between my bias strip in order to make my piping, because I had it like this in my machine. The seam allowances were to the left, so I moved my needle over to the right. Now my seam allowances are to the left, so to make that little line of stitching just a little closer to my piping, because I don't want to see this line of stitching that I've already stitched. So I can move my needle now, in this case, a little over to the left, and it'll be a little closer to that yarn, in this case, in the middle. So it will, I won't see that line of stitching. It'll be just a little tighter. And again, so no real big tips and tricks. We just, again, little machine know-how. You read your blister packs, of course. And of course, we've got lots of information on Janome Life blog and various Janome resources, which I will share in just a moment. So again, my needle position was at 4.0. Well, now I'm going to bring it back to the left. So center needle position on my Memory Craft 1000 is 3.5, but now I'm going to move it over 3.0. I'll make it even more snug at 2.5. So depending on your thickness of your piping, depends on where you're going to move your needle. You don't want to sew into your cording. You're just going to keep that needle right up against it. Now, we do have, zipper feet, an adjustable zipper foot for many machines, that HD roller foot for our high shank machines, as I mentioned. We can all make piping with those feet, but, and they allow us to get our needle really close to the piping. But it's so much easier, faster and easier and more professional to use a foot with those dedicated purposes. I often think in the kitchen, we have more than one knife. In the, garage, we have more than one screwdriver, more than one hammer for a specific task, for a specific purpose. So there is our line of stitching. Now you can see as I continued, do you see here on, again, the different needle positions. So over here to the right, in my gray thread there where my seam ripper is, to the right, there was my 4.0. But then I moved now, that was my 4.0 needle position, but then I moved it over here to 2.5. So do you see what a difference that is and why I moved that needle position? So when I fold over, look at how gorgeous that is. Have you seen, trousers, tuxedo trousers, men's tuxedo trousers in particular, and beautiful designer, very expensive designer wear? They'll even pipe the side seams in the trousers, or they'll do a little bit of piping along the waistline. Like, how beautiful is that? So there is our piping. We don't see, even if I pull this apart really tight, again, we don't see any previous line of stitching because we moved. There I can see my previous line of stitching, again, because we moved the needle over so it's tighter when I inserted it in between my layers. So that's really the secret to the piping. It's really ingenious of how it works. So when, there is my sister. Yes, fantastic. Again, no problem for that you're a little late. You can always review on Janome Canada YouTube, Janome America YouTube after the fact. I was mentioning how, yes, the innards of our piping, we can use yarn, leftover yarn for the innards of our piping. So anyone who is a knitter, crocheter, again, nothing goes to waste. Or again, this was the cotton cord that we tie up the turkey with. So you can use this too. So anything can work. Now, if this little sample, if you imagine, can I tuck this under? This little sample here, let's pretend this is a pillow, or I'll move this onto my table. Let's pretend this little, it could be a pillow, maybe a little doll pillow. So this is a pillow. So when we are going to, we take our beautiful piping that we just made, our one strip of piping here, and we're going to put it into a pillow. So again, we need to do things at the corners. For example, do we want to round the corner? This is why we like to use bias. This could be a Peter Pan collar on a garment. This could be around a pocket edge, a waistline. Again, we want to curve this, so we don't have to worry about a sharp miter. We can curve it. So, thank you so much. June says, your demonstrations are always so informative. Thank you. I so appreciate that feedback. I certainly try my best to share as much information as possible. which is why I often go over my 30 minutes. But yeah, so as I go up to my corners here, a good technique to use with your piping, again, think of a pillow specifically, or again, a Peter Pan collar for a garment, is we're going to round this off. So what we're going to do is take these are our little snips from our Janome 9-piece scissor kit. And we do not want to cut the line of stitching, but we want to just cut. This is why we need snips that are sharp right to the edge, right to the tip. And we're going to trim, make little cuts into this seam allowance just around that corner. So by making those little cuts, you see how easy that is. It just lays perfectly flat. There we go. So I line up my seam allowance on one side and I just round this over and take a pin. Ooh, that's getting caught under my machine. You take a pin and then hold that to place, or again, you hold it in place with, Wonder Clips, whatever you wish. And then there, I'm just going to stab this in. Stab that in, or I'll stab it like this to hold. There we go. So then again, we just stab that in to then hold that in place. So making those little snips just eases, it allows that piping just to form around the corner. So that is a very easy way to do corners, again, for your pillow. Or another option is this miter, where we're basically just folding it in half to form more like an L square, almost like a mitering a quilt. So, let's see. I'm trying to answer questions as I see. That's called easing, so that we can clip the fabric as well as the piping. That's what you're saying, Michael. Yes, that I'm clipping in here to make release my seam allowance, to basically ease it into this corner. So then I'm just slightly rounding it off. So I'm just clipping into the seam allowance. So yes, we could do a sharp, like an L square. So in order to do that, we just lay our strip down, have it all pinned into place. And when I get up to my corner, I again use my little sharp scissors, and right where my corner is of my bottom layer of fabric, I'm going to clip on a diagonal up into the piping, but I'm not going to cut my line of stitching. I'm just cutting the seam allowance. So when I lay that back on, it forms basically like a hinge. I just swing this up like a hinge, and my piping forms more like an L square, a sharper point. And we just tuck it in. It just kind of folds in the center. It works really, really easily. So just one more pin here. And then once I have this all done, once I have this all mapped out, then we can easily go on. Now I would have another layer of fabric on top, and then I would sew this down all in one step. Again, if I put that other layer on top, you wouldn't be able to see what I'm doing. So that's why I did it this way. But we would put our other layer on top, just as I did with this sample here, when I had my lower layer and then I had my piping and then I put my other layer on top. And then with the left groove, I'm going to sew in to attach all my layers together. So when I fold it out, it's going to be as gorgeous as that. So once you have this all laid out, then you would lay your other piece of your pillow on top. And then, yes, you'd use your left groove. And this is where, again, I would move my needle position over as I do here. So again, so you can see what I'm doing here. With my needle position over, I have it still at that 2.5. So then this way, I'm not going to see that previous line of stitching. And again, I can just go right down, remove the pins as you go. And now as I'm getting into the corner, now you may wish to trim this when it's in your machine in case anything were to shift It may be a little more accurate if you trim it in your machine, but just be very careful as you come up here, because again, I'm going to stop with my needle down in my fabric, and I'm just going to clear that other piping, and we've got a needle down button there. Lift this, pivot. So this is why, again, we had to use the left groove because of that little carved out bit on the bottom of the foot. Do you attach piping first and then sew top piece, sew all at one time? I personally, you could do it all one time. I personally like to, when I'm doing a pillow, I like to sew my piping as I have pinned it in place here. But I normally do my pillow, and then I'll do my piping. I'll sew this lower bit of my piping on first, just as I'm doing. Then I'll put my top layer on top, and then I'll sew another row of stitching. Now, many people will layer it all like this. They'll not sew this piping down. They'll put their top layer on, and then just with one row of stitching, they'll put it all on together, which is totally fine. You can do that because of, again, the grooves in the foot. It's your personal preference if you want to stitch it twice or do it all in one step. That's entirely up to you. I personally like to do it in 2 steps, but you can do it all in 1 step if you wish. So there is, again, you see how my line of stitching has moved over because I'm a little tighter now, putting my piping down. And then if I were putting my other piece on top, I'd put it right back in the same channel and stitch it again. Or, you could always flip it over. And then you see that line of stitching, and then you're going to follow that line of stitching. So it's entirely up to you. Now, I wanted to show you very quickly when we're finishing this. So as I'm finishing this bit of piping, there are many ways to do it. One way you may see, look at your throw pillows on your sofa, and they take these ends of the piping and they just kind of run it down off the pillow. So then it looks like a straight line, but they kind of, again, if you see there, they just kind of run it off into the seam allowance. So you could do it that way, or a sort of more flatter, more professional way is you open up your piping here, so then you see your cording, and you can remove that little bit of cording. And then we can fold under, again, the raw edge, so everything is nice and finished. And then again, I've removed my cording here, so it's going to be a little flatter. So I take this piece that still has the cording in, and I can line it up. So it's similar like we're doing our quilt binding, in that we're trying to make this as flat as possible. So I'm going to cut this off right where my cording up in this top layer. You see, there's my cording of my top layer. So I'm cutting off my bottom layer here on the left. I'm cutting off my cording, so it's going to match this cording to the right. So I'm not overlapping my cording, basically. But I am going to lift up my strip on the left. Here's my strip on the right. There's my raw edge. Fold it under. And I'm just going to fold this under like that. So my fabric is overlapped a little bit, but my cording is not. And you will see what a beautiful flat finish this is, because the cording that's inside this piping is not overlapped. Again, the fabric is a little bit, maybe about 1/4 of an inch or so, but it is not much at all. So again, there it is. Look at how beautiful that is. It looks seamless. It's overlapped a little bit, but when this is turned out, as it would be on your pillow, when this is now a finished pillow, like, look at how gorgeous that is. That little thread, we'll get rid of that. But again, look how gorgeous that is. So it's nice and flat. So that's all there is to it. Now, again, I mentioned resources. Oh, yes. Now, we do have information on the back of your blister pack, but oh, gee, before I do the resources, again, piping gets so addictive. You make yards and yards and yards of piping. And when you finish your project, oh, I have this little strip left over. Where am I going to put it? Well, these are some little tote bags, little shaving bags I've made. The pattern didn't call for this little bit of piping in between these two layers, but I thought, hey, I've got some leftover piping. I might as well do it. So I just added in this bit of piping there, no problem with my zipper. So you just add it in. The same with this little bag. Again, the pattern didn't include this row of piping, but I thought, hey, I still have more of that piping left over. I might as well just insert it there. Now, this pattern did include the piping. This is a beautiful sewing machine cover from our friends at Sew for Home. It's a free pattern from sewforhome.com. There is piping accent here on this front pocket. This is a great pocket for your scissors, rotary cutter, your tools. But the pattern included all this gorgeous decorative stitching that we can do with any of our machines. This little bit of piping accent here. Piping accent here all around each side of the sewing machine cover. So a great project where you could use, yes, your zipper foot to make this piping, but a great project for your piping feet. If you purchase them and you want to get started right away, this sewing machine cover would be great. And some of these buttons, again, my mother saved, something, this little panda bear. I think that was off a little onesie I had as a kid. So again, you save all your old buttons, you put them on the sewing machine cover. It's so cute. And also piping. Ooh, did you know? Piping here, we have a piping foot for our sergers. So this tote bag here, I made on the serger. All the straight lines were on the serger. The top stitching detail of the pocket, of course, and the top stitching detail around the piping was done on the sewing machine, but the actual piping itself was made with the serger. So there are actually two piping feet for the sergers as well. So again, tote bags, sewing machine covers, little, again, zippy pouches, or this is a big blow up. This was a quilt I made. I no longer have this quilt, but this is a quilt I made, and you see there's that little bit of piping. It was the same piping that I used in these bags. There's a little bit of piping there in between. This is the binding of my quilt. This was a little flange that I added to the quilt just to add something a little different. Why not add this little bit of piping for your quilt binding? And then there's the body of the quilt. So again, piping, we can use it for everything. So there's lots of information. This is a bulletin, Janome bulletin, that's on Janome global site. So you type in your browser, Janome global site. Here is the narrow piping foot bulletin. They show you, again, there's the making the piping with the right groove. There's the bottom of the foot with the two grooves. There's inserting it with the left groove. There's clipping your seam allowances, as I just demoed, to go around that curve. So how cool is that? Look how beautiful that is. So this is a Janome bulletin on the Janome global site. And yes, we can use the narrow piping foot for the 5 and 7 millimeter and 9 millimeter machines. We can also find more resources. Oh, time is my enemy. I know time is flying by. More resources. We type in our browser, ooh, the glare, Janome Life Blog. So we type in the browser, Janome Life Blog, and in the search box that's here to the right, we type in piping foot. All these blogs, there are tons of blogs. This is a blog I wrote many years ago. Here, I'm sewing that piping onto it. Now I'm sewing my binding on this quilt, and you see there's my piping. I've already sewn it down to my quilt. Now I'm going on with my binding, and I'm using that left groove. My piping is in that left groove, and now I am sewing on the binding to the quilt. Then I'm going to flip it to the back side and hand sew it. Or I could stitch in the ditch, whichever I choose. So there was the photo that I blew up so you could see better. So again, these blogs on Janome Life, and there's some of the cording that I use in the middle. And again, a lot of it comes from the discount store or again, the hardware store. Ooh, the presser foot workbook is another great resource we can again get from our Janome dealers. And the presser foot workbook, I've been showing this all month. And specifically, ooh, there's a specialty presser foot addendum. And it is on, ooh, the piping foot. There we go. Specialty presser foot addendum for the presser foot workbook. So first you purchase the presser foot workbook, this binder, then we get this specialty presser foot addendum, or maybe you just want to purchase the specialty presser foot addendum. There's the part numbers of your different piping feet, and you have pages and pages and pages how to use this piping foot. So it's a great resource for more of your piping foot. And then lastly, very quickly, if we go to our Janome Canada YouTube, we can go to Janome America YouTube. Here I am demoing, this is the A to Z with Janome series, and there you see my L piping for the corner to make like an L square with that little notch in the middle. There's my curved piping with the bias. So this is a Instagram live presentation that I did many years ago when we first started COVID and we needed a way to communicate with you all when we couldn't go to the dealer stores. So this was all Instagram lives that I screen recorded. So there I'm going on about how, to use this foot. So that is the A to Z with Janome series on the Janome Canada YouTube channel. And then, of course, we can go to janome.ca, janome.com, I'll enter in the accessories tab. Here is the narrow piping foot, for example. We just type in piping foot and up comes the part number of the foot that we need, for example. There they are. And including this video, which is right here, the narrow piping foot. So it's the same foot as the regular piping foot, it's just a little more narrow. But there is a whole tutorial right there on Janome America's YouTube, Janome Canada YouTube, Janome Life blog, the presser foot workbook. Of course, your Janome dealer is another great resource of all things Janome. So, as always, I went over my time. What a surprise, because there is so much to demo with these specialty presser feet. They are so fun to do. So yes, you can check them out at your fabulous Janome dealer, and happy sewing. So thank you everyone so much for joining me today, and I will see you all again. Oh, thank you so much. I so appreciate the compliments. Yes, thank you. It's my pleasure. Whatever I can do to share the Janome love, help us get more from our machines, all of our presser feet and accessories. There's no end to the creativity and the fun. So have a great day, everyone. Thank you so much. Bye.